there is a crucial Supreme Court hearing underway to determine whether or not a floor test should take place tomorrow. The governor has called for a special assembly session for that. We are joined now by Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Mr. Sanjay Hegde, Mr. Deshratan Nigam, and Advocate of the Supreme Court, also a supporter of the BJP. He joins us. Sanjay Jha is joining us. Krishna Hegde of the Shiv Sena also joining us, along with Rohit Chandravarkar, senior journalist from Maharashtra. Sanjay Hegde, just wanted to start with you. The arguments, of course, are still on, and both sides have really cited multiple Supreme Court orders from the past to bolster their arguments.
Yes, everybody has their own interpretation of what the past precedents mean. But ultimately, if you boil down the arguments, there is one argument from Dr. Singhvi saying that, look, there is a question of disqualification which is pending. If disqualified people, if people who are subject to, likely to be disqualified, are allowed to participate in the no confidence motion, it would skew the no confidence motion. Yes, there is also a judgment of the Supreme Court earlier in the Shivraj Singh Chauhan case, which said that questions of disqualification do not necessarily impact when there is a no confidence motion. However, the distinction that Dr. Singhvi sought to draw was that in the Shivraj Singh Chauhan case, it was a case of resignation of people. There was no court order which prevented the speaker from doing anything. In this case, the Supreme Court, having prevented the speaker from proceeding with the disqualification till it hears the case on the 11th, and in a way protected the status quo insofar as the disqualification is concerned, should equally protect the status quo on the question of no confidence, because both these issues are interconnected, and the court itself cannot be seen as having by its actions changing the status quo on the ground. This is the last part is a inference to be drawn from the arguments. On the other side, Mr. Kaul has argued that, look, the floor, time and again the Supreme Court has said that the floor test is the best way of finding out who actually commands a majority. The court has already held that, disqualifications and all that can be subsequently gone into, but floor tests cannot wait. The judges have been asking probing questions on both sides. I would not venture to hazard a guess on which way the judges will ultimately rule.
Absolutely.
We are now at around 7:30. And since the judges can't go into the question, we have already adjourned the question of disqualification to the 11th. The question is whether they will adjourn the question of the no confidence also to the 11th and protect the status quo in the meanwhile, or say no.
As you pointed out, this is an unusual case because the Supreme Court itself stepped in and didn't allow the disqualification proceedings to go ahead. And as Abhishek Singhvi argued there, he said that, how can they be part of a floor test on the 30th of June if they would ultimately stand disqualified from the 22nd? Of course, the other side arguing that otherwise there'll be horse trading and a floor test is the right way to go ahead. But Mr. Krishna Hegde from the Shiv Sena, we're now getting reports that it's very likely that if the Supreme Court does allow a floor test to go ahead tomorrow, that Uddhav Thackeray will resign instead of facing that floor test. Having seen what he's also said in the cabinet meeting that was just held, it seemed to be kind of a farewell speech. He thanked everybody for their support, talked about the work they've done for the last 2.5 years. Would it be better for him to step down? Because at the moment, it doesn't really look like the numbers are in his favor at all.
First of all, Nidhi, let me tell you that Uddhavji, first of all, I must congratulate Uddhavji on the 3 historical decisions he's taken today. One in the Sambhaji Nagar issue, one in the Dharashiv issue, and one in the Navi Mumbai Airport naming as Diba Patil Navi Mumbai Airport, and thus leaving an imprint in the history of Maharashtra politics in such a short span. Secondly, if you hear Uddhav Sahib's complete speech, he said that we have taken 3 and more historical decisions today, but more decisions will be taken in the next cabinet meeting. So there is nowhere he said that he is going to leave. The reason he left Varsha is he said that I'm not for more or some benefit. I'm here to serve the people, and he has sent a very strong message to the people of Maharashtra and to the people of India that if required, he is willing to leave the CM residence and work from his own residence. Thirdly, he has also thanked the NCP, the Congress, and some members of this party for the continuous support, and also the people of Maharashtra for supporting. So there were two parts of his address today, and there is no way he has said that I am quitting. If we know Uddhavji as a human being, as a person since his college days, I can tell you that he is one of the most focused individuals.
Okay, so you're saying he won't quit so easily.
Didi, please let me complete.
Yeah.
As a person with less administrative experience, even during Corona, he did an amazing job and saved crores of lives. Over that, when he had a spine surgery, even recently, I think it's the history, it is one in a kind of history where after a spine and neck surgery, a person recovers within 1 month and goes to work as a chief minister, and such a stressful job. So
the question is whether he enjoys the confidence of his of the government now. Does he enjoy the confidence of the assembly? Mr. Deshratan Nigam, would you say what does your gut tell you? You can't predict what the Supreme Court will do, but do you think that Uddhav Thackeray would be more inclined to step down before a floor test rather than have to go through the entire process?
Nidhi, in fact, what Supreme Court would do is, as per the constitutional position already established, well, Abhishek Manu Singhvi also knows about it, but his job is to put his best foot forward. The constitutional position as of now is that the floor test will not be stayed. That I am very confident about that. And my reputation, I can put my reputation on stake. And it may be, deferred for a day or two, but that is also very unlikely. However, the last, ditch effort of renaming the, Aurangabad as Sambhaji Nagar clearly shows that he is aware of certain realities and he's willing to step down. I mean, that's the reading of that I have of the situation. And secondly, even before the floor test was ordered by the governor, the Shiv Sena was clearly saying, the Uddhav Thackeray faction was clearly saying, come over here and we'll have a floor test, asking Eknath Shinde's group to come to Mumbai and face the floor test.
Now they're saying the opposite.
Yes, that's the hypocrisy and dichotomy of the situation. If you're so confident of the fact that you have the majority, go for the floor test. Why are you so hesitant about it? So the reality speaks otherwise, and the face before the media is something else. And it's very interesting arguments which are going on from both the sides of the parties. But I think Nabam Rebia's case, Shivraj Chauhan's case is quite clear, the disqualification and the floor test are two independent things. And the deputy speaker can also be removed before the floor test actually takes place, and the entire thing will go.
Let's see what the court actually does decide eventually. We have Mr. Majid Memon from the NCP, also himself a very senior advocate, joining us on the phone line at the moment. Mr. Memon, your thoughts as these arguments go back and forth. I mean, to wear your political hat first, why not just have the floor test and get it over with?
Nidhi, kindly give me a couple of minutes to explain where do we stand and what do we expect from the Supreme Court. It is not that as though I am arguing or placing the facts before you as a representative of MVA, being an NCP member. As a lawyer, let me explain a few very confused things. On 27th of June, the Honorable Supreme Court had passed its brief order in which all the relief that was granted to the petitioner Shinde, because Shinde had approached the Supreme Court as the petitioner. Number one, it was argued that his petition was immature, it was premature, because the disqualification process was commenced, but there was no disqualification order passed by the Deputy Speaker. And therefore, what he was challenging was the issuance of notice alone. And what the Supreme Court decided there, as we all know, that the Supreme Court said that the deadline given till Monday, just a couple of days, was too short. Reasonable time should be given. Therefore, Supreme Court, in its wisdom, deemed it fit to grant to these erring MLAs time to reply till 11th of July, and the matter is posted on 12th of July. Now remember one thing, and I'm sure the Honorable Supreme Court judges also know what has been going on in the state of Maharashtra for the past more than fortnight is that the people who are, that Shinde group, who are unhappy with Uddhav's style of functioning, his association with NCP and Congress, therefore they want the government to be thrown out. And therefore this rebellion approach of all this lot, maybe 20, 30, whatever they are, is purely with a view to throw out government of Maharashtra under the leadership of Uddhav Thackeray. And that is why they have adopted this course of becoming rebellious. Everybody knows it. I don't think it's a secret. And therefore, all that they were wanting was that they should have a kind of strength, show of strength on the floor of the House as early as possible before they could be disqualified. Now, the second important question in law would be whether the Speaker was within his right to issue show cause notices and get them disqualified, whether the defection law applies, whether these lot of people, about 20, 25, whatever they are, with behind Shinde, they are no more Shiv Sena associated MLA. They may have the different, what is their identity? They don't belong to any political party. They have not joined any party. They therefore continue to remain in the air until their fate is decided as to which people are they representing in the state of Maharashtra, which party they are representing. And for that purpose, the Speaker had initiated the move for disqualification, and Speaker had only invited their reply. Now, the Honorable Supreme Court, I am sorry to say this, with due respect to the Honorable Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court has not in fact stayed disqualification proceeding. It has only prolonged it. It has only said that, well, reply can be filed till 11th of July. The deadline of that last Monday was too short. Beyond that, Supreme Court has not stayed. So disqualification process continues to survive as at this hour when the
well, that is at the crux of all of this. The fact that the court has only delayed it and hasn't stayed. Mr. Memon, I just need to go across to the others on the panel as well. I'll just come back to you. Give me a second. Rohit Chandravarkar, senior journalist, also joining us. Rohit Chandravarkar, again, the buzz gathering steam now is that Uddhav Thackeray will not face a floor test even if the court orders him to do so tomorrow, that he will step down. Rohit, if you could please unmute.
Yeah, I'm also hearing the same thing, Nidhi, from sources. And having known Uddhav for a long time, many years, the way his personality is, I don't think he wants to face a floor test. In fact, I can tell you, viewers and you, that he wanted to resign much earlier, actually. It is Sharad Pawar and Sharad Pawar's NCP that is making him do all this. Getting into technicalities and parliamentary tactics and, using anti-defection law and then disqualifying some members, etc., is not Uddhav's style. This is the NCP that is calling the shots from behind the curtains, is what people tell me. And I think Sharad Pawar is a fighter. I mean, he doesn't want to give up. He will do, everything to sustain and continue. And it is his brain and his, team that is working on whether the whip of Shiv Sena, the crucial part that I'm coming to, the whip appointed by Shiv Sena tomorrow again will have the right to disqualify people if members, those who have defected, if they don't vote according to his whip. So again, there is going to be another hurdle. All these tactics will be used by NCP, etc. But coming back to Uddhav Thackeray, looking at his body language last few days, looking at the speeches that he has made, I think retracting right now and stepping down from government will consolidate his position within the Shiv Sena. Remember, Shiv Sena is a party that runs on emotions. He's making emotional speeches. He's meeting people that he was not able to meet. Today's decisions of the cabinet, all is emotional thing that he's that he's playing. Now, if he tries to stay on, Barasaheb Thackeray also used to say many times that, I don't care about power. I want to be with Shiv Sainiks, etc. It is that legacy and the emotional emotive thing that Uddhav wants to run. So my prediction, to come to your question, is that Uddhav might make some emotional speech in the House tomorrow or whenever the session is called, and may announce his resignation even before the counting, etc., is done. He's not a person who gets into these technicalities and doesn't enjoy all of that.
It may be politically more sensible.
Last line is that will be his political game, because he's going to appeal to the Shiv Seniks that, look, I'm stepping down, sacrifice kind of a thing.
Right.
And then he will start building his party again, and then the battle will continue.
Right.
But,
in fact, I just want to bring everyone up to date on what's happening in court.
Thackeray government's days are numbered.
So we still have the Shinde camp arguing in court right now, and NK Kaul, a senior advocate, arguing there. He was asked by Justice Suryakant how many MLAs are there in the dissident group. He said 39 out of 55, which is why there is nervousness about a floor test of the other side. The Supreme Court asked how many have been served a disqualification notice. He said 16, which is correct. But NK Kaul also saying we are not leaving the Shiv Sena, we are the Shiv Sena. So the Shinde faction clearly now stating in court that they are the actual Shiv Sena, that it's not a breakaway faction as such. And their lawyer arguing that the other side, that's the Uddhav side, is a hopeless minority, as they have put it, of just 14 Shiv Sena MLAs. Sanjay Jha, you wanted to come in. What are your predictions, Sanjay? Is it time for Uddhav Thackeray to step away from this gracefully?
Nidhi, on the contrary, I don't think so at all. I mean, if he had to resign, he would have done it a week ago. But now when you come to the finish line, there is a floor test which is going to either happen tomorrow. I don't want to second guess the Supreme Court. It can even happen later. Technically, I do believe it appears. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but logically, if you have 16 MLAs facing a potential disqualification, to give them a legitimate right to vote in a trust vote against the section of the party that they oppose does not seem logically right. But then, logic and legal can actually go in two different directions. The second point is also the role of the governor. I'm sure the Supreme Court is aware of it. I think Abhishek Manu Singhvi has made that point. I mean, the governor, as we all know, is not an independent constitutional authority. He's an ex-BJP RSS man. He's following the dictates of whatever the party and not even the government wants. So that is also pretty palpable, because if 2 days it was not enough time for the MLAs to respond to a disqualification notice, then 1 day to do a floor test looks an extreme stretch. So there are many arguments and counter arguments. And I do believe that ultimately this is basic civics, that the governor needs to take the advice of the Council of Ministers. I mean, a decision to hold a floor test or dissolve the assembly or go for any third alternative, you can't do it without the chief minister and the governor being in conversation. That hasn't happened at all. So these look like quite palpable contraventions of the basic constitutional processes, but we leave it to the wisdom of the Supreme Court to react on that. I will repeat on your show, I don't think Uddhav is going to resign. Uddhav will go for the floor test. He has a chance to speak to the people of Maharashtra. And you go down fighting. And as I think Rahul correctly mentioned, tomorrow if the whip is obviously going to be protested against and they will vote against the whip, well, then they face another round of disqualification, which will be hard for them to escape.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I mean, you have a different take on it. Let's see how it does play out. Arguments are still going on, so we're not going to second guess when we're actually going to know what the Supreme Court has to say. I see Sanjay Hegde smiling about that. But there is Advocate Maninder Singh also arguing for the Shinde camp right now, making the argument that the advice of the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers is not needed before the governor orders a floor test, because Abhishek Singhvi had argued that the Chief Minister had not been consulted by the governor before he ordered that floor test to take place. Hopefully, we will have some decision one way or the other within the next hour or so. But like I said, fingers crossed, we don't know. We're prepared for every possibility at this point. Thank you very much.